Good morning. We at Apple Consulting have been tasked with briefing you on social diversity and social identity theory with the purpose of making recommendations on adopting such policies in your company in order to create a more accepting working environment for all employees with the goal of improving company efficiency and team performance.
Basically, in a nutshell, social identity theory occurs when an individual bases how they perceive themselves on the social group they belong to, and they compare their social groups to other social groups to determine who's the more salient of the two. An important question to think about is whether social identity theory is relevant in South Africa, because this theory was developed in the 1970s and it was also developed in the UK. But in South Africa, it seems to be quite relevant because behavior seems to be dependent on the social group that you belong to, and people are also very aware of the social groups that they belong to. Before we look at social identity theory, we also need to look at attribution theory, which is a precursor to understanding social identity theory. Basically, the attribution theory is saying that you attribute a person's behavior to either their personality or the effect of a social situation or the influence of a social group. We need to understand why people make these assumptions, and something that's very clear is that there is no objective reality. Everybody makes assumptions, and it's actually quite normal. It's actually not even really a negative thing because it's necessary to exist in the world that we live in. But being aware of these assumptions is important in a team setting, because if we are aware, we're less likely to jump to conclusions regarding our other team members, and we're also more likely to consider other people's point of view. And that's the basic underlying knowledge we need to look further into social identity theory, which is broken up into three main components.
There are three main components of social identity theory. The first being social categorization, where an individual basically classifies and segments the social world to make it ordered, allows one to place themselves within a group or society. For example, a UCT student. So basically, before we compare or consider any other factors, one just single-handedly focuses on where they view themselves. If one is good in sports, one might consider themselves an athlete. The second being social comparison. One's value based on other groups, and determine this value based on relative characteristics. Indicates how similar a person is to others. Can be a subconscious comparison. People compare themselves in the in-group to others in the perceived out-group, with a predominant in-group bias. For example, UCT versus UKZN students. If an individual goes to UCT, they might have a bias if they're in the job of HR manager towards UCT students, because they might perceive them to be better than that of UKZN students. Social identity, particular to the group that you belong to, can be positive or negative based on your relative value to other social groups. If not positive, an individual would look to leave the group and find a better one. Can also lead to discriminating against the out-group, as they are viewed as almost rivals that need to be overcome / triumphed over in order for the group's self-esteem to increase. If you look at this diagram, for example, you can see we have a need for self-esteem, all individuals do. And if we're just looking at it at a purely individualistic level, we will go through the top through personal identity and personal achievements, which will lead to self-esteem. However, when we're considering it under the social identity banner, during the comparison stage, we have a favoritism towards the in-group, and during the identity stage, we sometimes degrade other groups just to make ourselves seem greater and more powerful and organized. These two both lead to self-esteem, or lack of. It's important. Social identity theory is an important theory as it explains behavior in essence. So basically, it identifies the disadvantage, designed to explain social change, and it accounts for social stability. However, those are just words. That doesn't really explain why it is important for us. It helps to explain discrimination and why groups behave adversely to each other. And all of this is centered around one key driver, that being self-esteem. This knowledge is a powerful tool in managing one's own and others' behavior through understanding the driving forces behind self-esteem.
Okay, to elaborate on the theories that we've discussed, we'd like to illustrate some examples that show off these theories. So I'm going to talk about the first three examples, and then Max will take over for the last three. Our first example is when you have a team of members who are from a different university background. What happens is, in the team, people separate into in-groups where it's just filled with alumni from that university. So you'll have UCT alumni, FITS alumni, Stellenbosch alumni. So the problem is that they start to view themselves as part of this group instead of the team. So this creates a lot of conflict because there's more competition, like they feel more competitive because you feel like that university group is trying to actually like compete with you and trying to better them, represent their university identity. You feel more separated because there's separate groups going on in your team, and you feel more threatened because you feel their actions are trying to bring down your university identity. Okay, a second example is when you have team members who all come from a different area. They all grew up in different areas, so they start to form groups in their specific area groups. So this shows our social categorization theory because you start to classify and segment the world according to the area you grew up in. Your area represents your place in society. So here, our example is Camps Bay born versus a Khalisha born. Since Camps Bay is seen as a more wealthier area, you might feel like you're in a higher place in society. So you feel like you hold more power in the team, while the Khalisha born person will feel like they have less power in the team. This leads to the Khalisha born displaying less ideas and contributing less in the team, which again negatively affects teams entirely. The final example that I'm going to present is the native speaker group separation. So if you have a team of people who all have different native languages, they're all separated into their native groups because they speak the same mother tongue. This usually happens because the native tongue represents their culture, so they separate like that. You start to view other languages as separate groups, so you have your English speakers and your Afrikaans speakers. Here, social identity kicks in because as an English speaker, you might feel that the Afrikaans group is performing better than you, so you might actually start to, since they're performing positively, you'll actually sway towards the Afrikaans group and leaving your own English group.
So Shaheen took the first 3 examples, and now I'm going to take the last 3 examples. So example number 4, the general feedback given to a team member could not be adequately taken into account if that person is a member of a minority group, i.e. they value themselves as lesser compared to the other social groups. So this member will not constructively respond to the feedback given to him and rather attribute this feedback to them being part of a minority group because they want to protect their own self-esteem. This leads to a decrease in the team effectiveness as appropriate changes according to the feedback given are not made. So team members of a team might be part of different organizations or bodies. So a team could be made up of members who are either CFAs, CAs, or board certified lawyers. So a member could identify with other team members who are also part of their respective body, resulting in an in-group scenario. For example, members of the CFA in-group could feel that they have a higher status than the CA in-group, especially when the team is required to work through finance-related work. A feeling of superiority could arise, causing the team to become less efficient, as the CFA members take charge without consulting the lawyer or CA team members. This is reminiscent of power distance theory, where there is an unequal distribution of power between members due to a hierarchy.
The team may be made up of individuals from different financial backgrounds. So individuals in such a team may feel a closer connection to members who come from a similar background to them. As a result of this, subgroups may form within the group, leaving some members in the group feeling marginalized. A new social identity forms in the group and leads to the marginalized members feeling that they need to change who they are in order to fit in, thus causing them to compromise who they actually are. This negatively affects the team as members feel inferior to the others and may not be able to perform to the best of their abilities due to changing themselves to assimilate with the rest of the group.
These are the following recommendations and environmental cues based on what my other team members have presented. With environmental cues, a company should be very careful of environmental cues that could offend members of the team. For example, members from formerly oppressed race groups may feel uncomfortable if images of the apartheid era are displayed. This may lead to them not being able to perform at their optimum. To counteract this issue of environmental cues, a company should analyze its work environment both physically and virtually to ensure that it is compliant specifically and it does not offend or alienate any formerly oppressed race groups.
Our next recommendation is to emphasize diversity within teams. This recommendation is based on research on the solo status, which is basically just saying that if there's a numerical minority in a team, members of that minority feel like they have to represent their group as a whole, and they concentrate on not perpetuating any negative stereotypes associated with that group. This leads them to not really concentrate on the task at hand, which would affect the team's performance. We recommend that the groups are diverse as possible and encompassing as many members of each group. This leads to more trust within the team, and there is the possibility of a role model of the same minority for each member of the group to increase motivation and overall performance. Now, we understand this is hard to implement in the short term, especially to hire and fire people at will is very difficult. So we suggest strongly communicating the value of diversity within the company, which would help encompass everyone and make them feel welcome, and also implement support systems for those minorities if they have issues. Earlier, Max spoke about feedback and the issues with it, how minority group members can misconstrue feedback to be biased or stereotyped against them based on their group. And we recommend wise feedback to counter this. Employees should be trained to give wise feedback, which is basically just feedback with an emphasis on high performance and effort on behalf of the employees, and supervisors need to emphasize the fact that they set these high standards, but they definitely believe that the employees can fulfill them and meet them. This basically just removes any ambiguity in their motive, so employees can't think that, well, they won't believe that it's based on any stereotypes that the feedback giver is holding, and this basically will just ensure that feedback does its job and the team can improve as a whole. Finally, we understand that it's difficult to cater for everyone's needs without making them feel isolated or unfairly individualized. For example, people taking religious holidays or having different food and diet requirements. We understand this is difficult, but we recommend that team activities and team building is a way to combat this. It allows members to express opinions and ideas and get to know one another, and then the teams are more aware of each other's backgrounds and surroundings, and this will reduce any feelings of separation and bring about more of a unified team, which will increase performance.
In summary, given that employees are fundamental to the success of the company and the diverse cultural and ethnic makeup of South Africa, it is vital that management understand the importance of social diversity in the workplace and its impact that it has on team performance and company performance. Thus, management should seek to adopt policies that accommodate diversity between employees, as social diversity is not about encouraging employees to assimilate, but rather encouraging diversity to create an accepting environment for all employees, thus pushing the company forward to succeed. Thank you for choosing Apple Consulting. We hope that the theory put forward has helped you to understand the importance of social diversity and social identity theory in the workplace, and we hope that the recommendations put forward can help you develop a social identity plan going forward to improve efficiency in the team and company performance in general. Thank you.
So on the 22nd of August, the third assignment for our people management course was released, and we as a team decided to endeavour to complete it and do our best. However, the assignment was released during a time when we were all writing tests, so during test week, so we decided to complete it at a later date, closer to just after our tests were done. The first meeting was held during the mid-semester back, and however, one of our members could not make it, Rashka, and she was away in Durban. We then decided to go forward with the meeting, however, and still managed to include her in the meeting by using Skype as a medium, and this actually worked very well, and it did not hamper the group's productivity at all.
Okay, so in this meeting, we just wanted to discuss all the content, discuss what the assignment was about, and try to get used to like the content of the work, right? So we brainstormed ideas, we thought of what we're going to do and what's required of us. Okay, and then we agreed that all team members should, by some date, by a specified date the next week, finish all the readings and like consolidate all their work. right? So this is just to ensure maximum productivity and that there's no time wasted explaining content at our meetings. So as per the group contract, we set the date for the next team meeting, which was set for Wednesday on the next term.
In the second meeting, we consolidated everyone's work to identify the essential information needed for our presentation. Initially, there was a disagreement as to the degree of detail we should be going into for our examples. One member wanted a lot more than the rest of the team. Rather than having a vote and just overruling one team member, we decided to have a group discussion and reach a consensus, and it actually helped because the team member actually convinced the rest of the team that sufficient detail was necessary and we included more detail. So we then decided to allocate 2 people per section or per question, and then they compiled the PowerPoint slides and made the presentation, and then obviously presented their sections, and we volunteered as to which section we wanted to do.
Okay, then after we made arrangements for the meeting on Sunday, the 11th of September, and team members had to bring the necessary equipment to film the video. As we mentioned in our previous reflection, WhatsApp was a really, really efficient tool that we used, and we found the communication was really good. Everyone replies within a couple hours on the group, so any queries that we have are all resolved quite quickly.
The fourth meeting was probably our most difficult, as there was a bit of conflict as to what sort of video medium we should use, whether we should use a traditional approach with a PowerPoint presentation and voiceover notes, or go back to what we did in high school where we did a PowerPoint presentation with a projector. Due to this, we took a group vote as per the group contract, and we decided to go with using a PowerPoint presentation and projector, as you can see from our previous video.
Thus far, it seems the contract has been adhered to by all team members. Team communication was a clear strong point, although as previously mentioned, there was some conflicts and disagreements, but these were quickly resolved. And thus, we believe as a team, we are working effectively to deal with any problems and issues that arise.